medyo maingay dito. OMG, ang ingay dito. Kamusta kayo dyan? Alright. Let's get the ball rolling. Alright, let's get the ball rolling. Hello everyone! Welcome back dito sa the greatest podcast out there. Para naman magalit na naman yung mga kaiba natin dyan. Just to be clear guys, to be honest, from the deepest recesses of my heart, I don't consider anyone a rival as far as what we're doing is concerned, because I truly believe guys na itong ginagawa natin is unique. I'm not a journalist by training. I'm not just an academic by training. I'm not just an interviewing type of guy. I'm not just here to blow the horn of one side or to say itong side na magaling, itong side na hindi magaling. We don't do any of those things. And more importantly guys, isa sa mga ginagawa natin dito sa show natin is that we don't only talk to people dito sa bansa. Hindi lang mga politiko, hindi lang mga academics dito, hindi lang mga journalists dito. We talk to people all around the world. And as we promised guys, in the coming 3 days, we have a couple of world-class experts to join us. 2 of them from the West Coast, of course. Leloy Claudio, our good friends from UC Berkeley, just confirmed na okay siya for early next week. And since he's about to launch a new one, his own podcasts, we're hoping that we can do more of collaborations just like what we have with Chris Time. Also for Professor Vicente Rafael, medyo late kasi mahirap 15 hours yung time difference between here and the West Coast, but God willing, he's gonna join us also this weekend. And tomorrow naman, we're also gonna have Dr. Walden Bello, formerly UP, formerly Berkeley, another great graduate of Princeton University, just like Maria Ressa, and of course also based in Chulalongkorn University and State University of New York. So this is what we offer dito sa show neto. So please lang guys, for the nth time, don't come to me and say, ikaw ay mas magaling sa ganito, ikaw ay mas... No, don't need for that guys. I know and I appreciate your love. I know that anyone na hindi hater, na medyo nag-iisip, medyo may finesse, medyo may humor, medyo may pagkaintindi sa mga pangyayari sa mundo, also appreciates what we're doing here. Look at it, kahit may party sa babang family, everyone is doing their thing, pre-Christmas and all of that, post-wedding everything, ako, naghanap pa rin ako ng corner. This is the other thing that I always felt makes itong little show natin very, very special, because no matter what, I always try to make sure that I join you guys at any time of the year, any time of the day, with of course the exceptions of really holidays, and of course Sabbath days, para lang may sustainability tayo, para lang may time tayo to focus on things that are important. So again, please stay tuned that in the coming days we're gonna have 3 of the greatest Filipino scholars in the world teaching at or having taught at some of the top universities on earth. Yun po yung ginagawa natin. And again, I just don't interview, I just don't talk, I just don't ask questions. I'm here guys to have a conversation. So sorry lang kung iba nagdaldalan sa atin, then maybe you don't understand what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't appreciate substance. Maybe, kailangan natin mag-level up. But don't worry, itong show naman na to, it's always a work in progress, and I'm always happy to push the boundaries. Now today guys, pag-usapan natin a couple of important things, no? A couple of important things. Eto na guys, the third impeachment against Sara Duterte has officially been filed na. So we don't have one only, not two, but three different impeachment cases. Matagal na karoon ng speculation, ano ba itong third impeachment na ito? Galing ba sa anong kampo? Ano bang implication nito dun sa mga nangyaring behind the scenes negotiations? Magkakaroon ba tayo ng 106 one-third of the Congress to push it up to the Senate? What about Senate? What they're gonna look at? So ang dami natin mga smokes and mirrors, no? Ang dami natin nakikita mga mist, no? Mist of misinformation, of marites. So this is the reality we have to deal with. So the least we can do guys right now here is to try to make sense out of things despite all of those limitations. So pag-usapan natin today guys, ng third impeachment. Also, I want to talk about another important things na hindi pa natin masyadong napag-usapan in the past. And sa aking palagay, hindi masyadong napag-usapan ng ibang vloggers among others. Although, it's not like I sit down and watch other vloggers or anything like that. Sorry guys. I'm just so busy trying to catch up with developments all around the world. As I said, I have to finish a manuscript on China, ASEAN. I have to work another book. Ang dami natin ginagawa aside from academic work. But to the degree that I know, parang walang masyadong mga vloggers ay nag-focus sa issue na ito. But, thankfully, we have very good columnists, my fellow columnists and good friends. Shout out to Buchanko for also a fantastic piece he wrote the other day on the issue of Ombudsman. How important it is for us to get the right Ombudsman in the coming years. Kasi medyo papalit na tayo ng Ombudsman. Alright? So pag-usapan din natin yan. But, before we start there, and especially because guys, marami tayong mga followers na ating mga kababayan ng OFW, ating mga kababayan na nagtatrabaho all around the world, ating mga kababayan who follow us and continue to support us all around the world. Pag-usapan din natin ng ating mga OFW. But before that, of course, just before I forget that, shout out also kay Sir De Gea, kay Dr. Feliciana. Thank you so much. Yung mga naabutan natin, mga kapsat natin. And I'm glad that in one way or another, I make my fellow Baguio people, fellow Ilocano people, my fellow Cordilleran people, because I consider both Cordillerans and Ilocanos my brothers. Hermosos, as Isabela de los Reyes, my favorite, well, Ilocano din, favorite Ilustrado would put it, aside from Rizal. Thank you so much for your support. Please lang, wag nilang i-booking na nasa outlet shop ako kanina. naghanap na, ito na yung mga Ilocano style. May mga magagandang outlet naman dyan na makabili ka ng gift naman. Doon sa mga minamahal natin sa buhay. Si Daddy, si Mommy. Para naman medyo maganda-gandang tignan sila Daddy and Mommy. Lalo love natin sila. So, alam mo, kahit outlet yung shop kanina. Original, medyo nice brand. So, shoutout naman. Kaya minsan medyo conscious tayo. Baka may gagawin tayo, mabooking tayo. Hindi naman yung level ni Ronald Llamas na yung level ni Ronald Llamas, yung AK-47. Hindi naman tayo DVD. Hindi naman sana DVD, okay? So, shoutout dyan sa mga Green Hills. Minsan nagpapaayos tayo ng mga hindi natin mapapaayos, di ba? Yun lang. Anyway, pag-usapan natin na, guys. Let's get the ball rolling. First of all, homecoming na po ang si Mary Jane Veloso kanina. Ang tawag po sa kanya is a living hero. So after 14 years on the death row in Indonesia, guys, imagine the horror of being on the death row for 14 years, guys. For 14 years. Eto na, nakabalik na siya sa pamilya at nagkaroon ng reunion with her family just ahead of Christmas. It must be very, very special, especially of course, nasa ibang bansa siya, nasa ibang kultura, wala namang Christmas sa Indonesia sa pagkaalam ko, or not Christmas, the way we have it here in the Philippines. No one has it the way we have. So ayon kay Mary Jane Veloso, I'm so happy I'm finally back in our country. I am humbly asking, the president to grant me clemency, no? So, of course, nilipat po kasi siya sa correctional institution for women. After all, we're talking about someone who was convicted of crime, all right? On Wednesday, essentially, kahapon, groups gathered outside yung correctional facility to support her call. Nananawagan po ang tao ng clemency para talagang she can have her full freedom. Nevertheless, of course, sa social media nakita natin may mga mixed results, although overwhelmingly it was flooded with message of support. Veloso, of course, owes her life to massive social media campaign since 2015 pa. Alam na natin yan, marami sa ating mga kababayan ay humingi ng clemency, ng forgiveness, ng at least stay of execution by the Indonesian government, particularly under former President Joko Widodo, who was very insistent na talagang ganito ang batas natin. And in fact, to be honest, in the case of Indonesia, for a very long time, hindi nagkaroon ng execution. So even though nasa batas nila yan, it's still up to the president and the executive to decide whether they want to implement that. Under Jokowi, former President Jokowi, unfortunately, there was a reinstitution of the actualization of the sentence, kaya sobrang daming sa ating mga kababayan ay nagsabi na please tulungan niyo, at salamat naman sa Diyos, nakauwi siya finally, and perhaps a clemency could be in the cards. Now, obviously, this is a humanitarian issue, this is a human issue, and I know, marami ako narinig about that. There are two things that make this case really interesting, right? So, isa dito guys is itong factor ng, well, you had President Aquino essentially almost begging Jokowi to stay her execution, and to a certain degree that was successful because she remained alive until Duterte came in. And then under Duterte, my goodness, alam ko marami nanonood sa atin ng mga OFW. Alam ko marami sa ating mga kababayan ng OFW, love na love nila si Tatay Digong. And I understand where they're coming from. Because it's supposed to be a strong leader. Siya po ay, nag-reach out sa OFW community. I saw with my own eyes how the OFW community was always so gung-ho on supporting President Duterte. I know that in President Duterte, they have this sense that, ito na yung ating leader na lumalaban at tingnan mo ba't yung mga Amerikano minumura, ito na. So, things that perhaps they couldn't do in their real life, facing bullying, racism, whatever, nakita na nila through President Duterte, standing up for them. Our hero. I completely understand all of those things. Believe me, I understand that. I really understand that. Kaya para sa akin, medyo nakaka-shock talaga, no? Nakaka-shock talaga when President Duterte essentially said, wala akong pake dyan kasi ayoko rin sa mga drugista, di ba? And yet, gladly, despite President Rodrigo Duterte essentially throwing an OFW, Mary Jane Veloso, under the bus, there was no execution at the end of the day. And finally, with the follow-up under President Marcos Jr., we were able to make sure, guys, na we can get her back to the country and hopefully on the road to executive clemency. Now, second part to this is this. Nakita ko, even some of my friends, some of the people I respect, ay nag-comment sila, criminal pa rin naman yan eh. Bakit parang trato natin sa kanya, parang anghel siya, bakit parang bayani siya, ganun yung sinasabi ng mga kritiko naman. Now, obviously, we're not saying that just because you suffered a lot of years in a certain place, that makes an automatic hero. But ang dapat hindi natin makalimutan dito, guys, is this. Na her case is a case of exploitation and abuse. It is so easy to believe, and I think there's a basis to that really Mary Jane Veloso was duped into this. Right? And even if sabi natin, even if for the sake of argument, there was an aspect of her having an inkling of what she was engaging in. Obviously, she didn't have an inkling totally of what she was engaging in kasi alam natin, death penalty po sa Malaysia and Indonesia for drug trafficking. Sa Singapore, ganito po. Alam natin, strict na strict yan. So clearly, an element of deception was at play there. Clearly, an element of exploitation was at play there. And I'll tell you what, clearly, the least we can do, yeah, Emil and Felicia, the least we can do, right? The least we can do here is have a degree of empathy and sympathy dun sa ating mga kabayan who are so desperate to find a better life that they end up exposing themselves to risks, including the risk of human trafficking, including the risk of sex trafficking, including the risk of ending up as a drug mule. Okay? We have to have compassion for that. Okay? We have to have compassion for that. At parati ko sinasabi, alam mo, bakit dumating tayo sa ganitong panahon, and hindi ito nagsimula sa mga Pinoy, panahon pa ni Marcos nag-start yan, actually 60s pa lang meron na tayo nito, the law from Solid North. Bakit tayo kailangan mag-export ng ating mga kababayan? Para lang mamuhay sila, para lang magkaroon sila ng livelihood, para lang magkaroon sila ng pag-asa sa buhay, para lang makapagdala sila ng pera. You know, every single day, thousands, sometimes 3,000, 4,000 Filipinos are leaving the country. Every time umuwi ako sa Pilipinas at yung flight ay via Qatar or Lufthansa or Istanbul or something, every time pa uwi sa Pilipinas, oh my God, punong-puno yung airplane. Alright? Punong-puno yung airplane. So, what I'm saying here, guys, is this. What I'm saying is that we have to understand that there's something fundamentally wrong with our country. That our leaders have been so failed, so corrupt, so walang hiya, so incompetent, that millions and millions ng ating mga kababayan ay napilitan pumunta sa ibang bansa. And minsan napakababa pa yung sahod nila. At napakamaras yung mga kondisyon nila. I worked as a lowly staff, alright, sa Overseas Workers Affairs before in the Philippine legislature. Believe me, the kind of stories you hear is horrific. The cases of rape, abuse, the cases of underpayment, the cases of being stranded, the cases na yung ama ayaw ibalik yung passport kaya hindi makauwi. All sorts of horrible abuses in some of the most horrible places you can imagine for someone. When in fact you go to that place, you don't know the language, you come from a different religion. These are countries which are completely undemocratic, wala silang basic notions of human rights. We pushed for bilateral labor agreements for a long time. I work on those issues in my lowly capacity as a former staffer in the legislature. But believe me, guys, ang laki ng problema natin ng bansa natin. At the same time, a part of me is more and more hopeful that we will continue to fight dito para sa karapatan ng ating mga kababayan, ng mga OFWs, pag nasangkot sila sa mga ganitong mga, ayoko sabihin na krimen nasangkot dito sa mga ganitong budol, essentially. Nabudol, di ba? Nabudol sila. And we have to do our best to make sure na if ever they really committed crime, the punishment will be commensurate. And as a country that has abolished the death penalty, we have to push back against death penalty meted to any of our citizens abroad, even if there's a case of crime. But ito nga, kay Mary Jane Veloso, alam natin the reason na ang daming supporters sa kanya is precisely because people understand that she was a victim in every sense of the word. Now, let me also tell you another thing, that I'm super proud also when I hear everywhere I go and someone asks, oh, Pinoy ka pala. I mean, sometimes I don't look like a typical Filipino. But pag nalaman nila na Pinoy ako, sabi, oh my God, Filipinos, amazing people, amazing teachers, amazing nurses. Believe me, you have no idea how many times I've heard. People from England, from Australia, from UK, from Australia, from Canada, from some of the best, most advanced countries, parang almost half jokingly saying, pag wala yung mga Filipino nurses, ko-collapse yung kanilang healthcare system. So I'm also kudos dun sa ating mga nurses, ating healthcare workers who go all around the world. And at the same time, of course, I'm also worried, what about sa Pilipinas? Do we have enough nurses for ourselves? Do we have enough doctors for ourselves? But the issue is also, are we doing enough to make sure they stay in the country? Kung sobrang baba talaga ng sahod and all of that. So anyway, all I'm saying here is that shout out sa ating mga bayani, ng mga FWs. Shout out sa kanilang mga pamilya dito na nagsasakripisyo, because I know how hard it is to be away from your family and loved ones. It is difficult. And shout out, of course, to government officials from Aquino to BBM who tried their best, obviously not Tigong, who tried their best to make sure that Mary Jane Veloso and victims like her will have a chance to be reunited with their family and to step back on the beautiful sacred soil of the Republic of the Philippines. Now, transition na tayo to the main topic at hand today. Eto na guys. Booyaka siya. Booyaka siya. Third impeachment complaint na kay Sara Duterte. Ito na, pagod na tayo. Kailangan natin magkape kasi kailangan ko magtrabaho pala hanggang morning. Next thing you know, biglang may plano pala na mag-jet ski itong mga pamilya natin. Tayo naman, family, wala tayong masabi. Go lang tayo. Anyway, please bear with me. I'll try to keep as energetic and focused as possible. Ito, another impeachment complaint seeking the removal of Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte Carpio was filed at the House of Representatives kanina. Ito. Ang mga kasama na allegations dito po ay plunder, bribery, and of course, betrayal of public trust, which is a very, very catch-all, of course, basis for invocation of potential impeachment proceedings. No? Itong impeachment rap was filed by 12 complainants. At interestingly, they were composed of mga pare, miyembro ng mga religious groups, mga abogado, at ang kanilang sinasabi is that the Vice President Sara Duterte breached the Constitution, betrayed public trust, committed plunder, bribery, corruption, and other high crimes. The other high crimes. Ang ngay talaga nila sa likod. Sorry talaga, hindi natin makontrol. Wala kasing matinong table sa loob ng room, others sa taas na dito. Tiisin nyo lang ako, guys. Kaya natin yan para sa bayan. Anyway, alam naman natin, guys, pagdating sa ating saligang batas, ang grounds for impeachment include culpable violation of the Constitution, bribery, graft and corruption, other high crimes, or betrayal of public trust, and then there's treason. But as I said, ang problema sa treason is applicable lang ito in the war times, and of course, our definition of war times is fundamentally 20th century or 19th century war times. So hindi kasama yung liquid warfare, or hindi po kasama ang sabi natin mga katulad ng yung nangyaring gray zone na ginagawa ng China pang bubuli sa atin. So technically that doesn't fall, we're not technically in the state of war. So even though alam natin may mga kaibigan tayo dyan na super pro-China, hindi lang yung mga bayaran na vloggers na nandun sa China. Ay, sorry, wala akong sinasabi. Hindi lang mga ngayon. Expert pala ito, mga expert pala yung mga expert pala. Nag-aaral pala, expert. Nag-aaral pero walang legit na academic publication, pero post online. So you wonder, and then yung pinapost online, parang narinig ko yun sa Chinese Embassy. Parang narinig ko yun ganun. Tapos, iisip ka, ano kaya nangyari? Of course. Alam natin nangyari. Anyway, going back to this, guys. Eto na. So we already have a third one. Now, in a Viber message to the reporters, sinabi ng Office of Vice President that the matter was already relayed to them. There are two other impeachment complaints filed by other civil society groups and activists. Pinag-usapan na. One by Akbayan, and Mamayan Liberal, and Magdalo Group, among others. That's the first one, sponsored by Akbayan Party List Representative Persis Sendanya, who we have the pleasure of having on this. And the second one was led by the Makabayan Bloc. Of course, we also had a number of Makabayan Bloc members also intervened on this show, but on a different topic. So hopefully we can have them back also here. So you already have now two before, and this is the third one. All right, this is the third one. Now, ang council, no, yung nag-oversee na itong third complaint na ito po yung kanyang explanation dito. Ayon sa kanya, what makes this different is that the complainants now believe that it is no longer just the constitutional and legal obligations of the members of the House of Representatives to impeach and for the Senate to remove from office the sitting Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. Para sa amin, the obligation now has become a moral one. Ibig sabihin, hindi na ito usapin ng, may numero ba tayo? Supported ba ito ni BBM? Gusto ba ni BBM ito? Ano ba nangyari dyan? Magkakaroon ba tayo enough numbers? No, you have to do what is right. And you have to do what is right based on the evidence that you see. Based on the prima facie evidence. Based on all of the hearings that we have had. Right? Yun po ang gagawin natin dito. So, it is a moral imperative. Ito po yung argument ng third impeachment complaint right now. So, you clearly have more and more religious groups directly involved dito sa impeachment complaints laban kay Sara Duterte. So that tells you that the civil society is mobilizing. I would say that etong in participation ng mga different religious groups, obviously a lot of them with Catholic background ay mahalaga in light of the fact that we know another religious group, not as big as the Catholic Church, not as big as Catholic Church in terms of following, longevity, and institutional coherence, but nevertheless a very powerful and influential, right? A very powerful and influential religious group. Alam na natin yan, na nag-express ng opposition sa impeachment ni Sara Duterte. So I think it makes a lot of sense for yung mga supporters ng impeachment to also make sure na hindi lang sila nag-iisa. Alright? Na hindi lang sila nag-iisa, no? That they are, that there are many factors involved here. That there are many factors involved here. And that there are many groups who are interested for pushing for accountability and all. Yun nga, sana lang hindi mag-escalate to into something crazy. I doubt that. I think everyone is trying to keep within the bounds of the Constitution. Everyone's trying to express their position based on a proper understanding of freedom of the Constitution and available evidence. So interesting yan, guys. 1, 2, 3 punch na tayo ngayon. 1, 2, 3 punch na tayo ngayon. Sabi ni Percy Sedania, kung may gusto, may paraan. Makabayan Block naman, sabi nila, talagang pagdating sa confidential fund, karapalan talaga nangyayari. Kamusta naman? Para mo may explain yung mga piatos-piatos na yan. At medyo talagang malabo yung mga explanation ni Sara Duterte pagdating dun sa mga, ang confidential fund ay dapat confident din. Ganun. No. There are all of these different protocols. 2015 pa lang, may rulings na po tayo, may protocols na tayo on how you should use confidential funds. You cannot also confidential yung sa loob ng confidential fund and come up with mumbo-jumbo names and all of that. There has to be ultimately a point of reference. In fact, that happens even in intelligence services when you use alias for high-level spies. There is always a dossier that shows who is the real person after all, right? Now, if talaga, there's a concern about safety of certain people, even though parang maraming tao na same signature, isang tao, maraming signature, whatever. For the sake of argument, sabi natin talaga mga totoong tao ito. Di sana, di mag-call na lang sila ng executive session. Diba? Executive session. At doon sa executive session, dapat magkakaalaman kung may basihan talagang sinasabi. But you have a vice president who doesn't even bother to engage, to go to the NBA, to explain the circumstances around her death threats to the president, to go to the to the Congress and provide any additional information or additional you get what I'm saying. Like, this is a crazy situation. And then thirdly, now you have a situation whereby clearly guys, sinasabi itong sinasabi ito ng sorry, may double check na ako dito. Okay. Dami natin mga kaaway. Clearly also sinasabi dito na this is a moral obligation. So we're getting into the language of morality, obligation, and citizenry. So nagbi-build up na po etong momentum. And as I said, for the 100th time, for the nth time, let's say, okay, let's make it a little bit more exaggerated. You need to make sure that there's public pressure. You need to make sure that there's a fire at the feet of the politicians. Because sa totoo lang, let's just be honest, hindi talaga natin maaasahan ng mga politiko. No offense. I'm not here trying to be offensive to any president or anything like that. O yung mga kasolid north natin dyan. Don't take it as an offense when I say I don't see decisive leadership here. Alright? Because in any self-respecting democracy, guys, in any self-respecting nation, hindi tayo aabot sa ganitong situation. Alright? Hindi tayo aabot sa ganitong situation. This is a crazy situation we're facing right now. Alright? Anyway, now, I don't know if BBM, you know better than me, if BBM is playing Machiavellian game, etc. But katulad ng pinag-usapan natin kanina, guys, there is at least some murmuring about the possibility na behind the scenes, there is a discussion about a grand compromise. Kung saan, in exchange for the Dutertes not directly challenging Marcos, not creating gulo, not pushing for some sort of people power, in exchange for not for certain religious group not getting involved and creating distraction. In exchange, we're making sure that the headlines are not bad because our economy is not necessarily in the best shape. We might miss our target of 6 to 8% growth by far this year. I'm still crossing my finger. We might not get the upper middle income hope that we had earlier. So it could be quite possible that BBM, looking at the big picture and then looking at himself, who is very conflict avoidant and not into this direct confrontation and all, and then looking at the Dutertes who are in existential mode and want to go all the way, as I said, hindi totally impossible itong mga murmurings, you want to call it marites, or some would say more than marites, na baka magkakaroon ng deal. And as part of that deal, alleged deal, magkakaroon ng change in leadership. Essentially, Martin Romualdez could end up as the sacrificial lamb. And I don't know if Gloria Arroyo or someone who's trusted by both sides could come in. I don't know. But ito yung mga murmurings dyan. And I'll tell you what, if that happens, then that means wala ka talagang maasahan kay BBM, zero. That either his over conflict avoidance got the best in him, or there's a bigger conspiracy going on that we're not even aware of, or that there's, I don't know, mutual compromise here and no one wants to rock the boat, or that, I mean, di ba ito yung sinasabi ko noon pa, last year pa natin sinasabi, you can go back to my early discussion, Ronald has kept on saying na ito na, the Rubicon has been crossed, pero sabi ko, yes, we have a situation where the Rubicon has been crossed, but you also have yung mga other side who are saying, okay, it's okay, Cesar, you crossed the Rubicon, but maybe mag-usap tayo dun sa labas ng Rome para hindi na magkaroon ng gulo. I mean, yun eh. You have a conflict avoidant president, try to spin it as much as you want, and I think to be fair naman, you also have a president here who's looking at the big picture, ayaw niya ng gulo sa buong Pilipinas, naintindihan ko lahat ng mga yan. So, ngayon, kumbaga, umaasa na lang tayo. Diba? Umaasa na lang tayo na, umaasa na lang tayo na a third force will come up. A third force will come up. Because there has to be pressure from you. There has to be grassroots effort. There has to be grassroots efforts. Now, dito naintindihan ko bakit napaka-stress na stress si Senator Trillanes. Kasi ang sinasabi ni Senator Trillanes is, alam naman namin na mahirap ito eh. Na baka long shot pa nga ito eh. Alam nga namin na baka mag-backfire pa nga ito eh. Nagagamitan ng mga walang yung, alam mo na. Pero sana naman, give a chance to at least some effort to have a certain degree of accountability. At the same time, I'm more than happy to hear from some of our other friends, what is their plan? What is their plan to ensure accountability? Saan ba sila umaasa? Umaasa ba sila sa mga korte? Umaasa ba sila sa Ombudsman office? Umaasa sila ng karoon ng people power? Or umaasa sila na maging mabait si Sara, na maging super competent and decisive si BBM? Umaasa sila na okay lang sa atin na we'll wait another 3 years? Umaasa ba sila na mananalo sa tayo automatically in 2028 in the sense that we'll have a good leader? That's wishful thinking. That is wishful thinking. And let's not forget, Sara Duterte is the vice president. She is a heartbeat away from the presidency. Any moment, God forbid something happens to BBM, she'll automatically be the president. And you think she'll be nice? You think she'll be nice to all of these people who have been providing testimonies against them? Trillanes, De Lima, what have you? Seriously, do you think sigurado kayo na if ever abot ito ng 2028, sa tingin nyo matatalo niya si Sara Duterte? Remember, Sara Duterte is still tied number 1 with Raffy Tulfo. Now, umasa kayo na si Raffy Tulfo naman mananalo. Yes, but what if Raffy doesn't run? What if Raffy just runs as a vice president? What if Raffy is convinced to run as vice president? I don't know, for Martin Romualdez or something like that. There will be a sweet deal made there. And ano mangyayari sa atin? Wala na yan. So, what I'm saying is, kung wala kayong masasabi na talagang anything decisive on how we can have accountability, sana naman, wag lang kayong mag-popcorn at sana naman do something concrete. Now, speaking of doing something concrete, yes, You can, if hindi kayo sanay sa impeachment, go. Go on the streets. Mag-mobilize kayo. Gawin niyo yung ginawa natin noong 2020, 2012. Paano yan? 2012 ba yan? Paano ni Pinoy? Yung against PDAF. Di ba against PDAF? Ang dami namin sa luneta nun. Ang dami namin sa luneta nun. Siguro 100,000 tao. Yeah? Exaggeratingly, I called it the luneta revolution. But then let's do something like that. Let's go out. Let's show our anger. Let's show our frustration. Where is that? So kung ano lang kayo, magmamaganda lang kayo, magpa-popcorn lang kayo, tapos ano pa kami mga katulad mga podcasts, yun, ang dami yung just shut it. Alright? Kung wala kayong contribution ng mga, just shut it. Just shut it. Okay? Just shut it. Okay, yun lang masasabi ko eh. Now, speaking of the constitutional procedures, Sara Duterte is a public servant. And as a public servant, she's answerable not only to courts kasi wala siyang immunity. She doesn't have complete immunity like the president. She's just a spare tire, as Cayetano would put it back in the day, to be dismissive and to undermine the mandate of former Vice President Lenny Robredo. She has no portfolio in the cabinet, so nakalutang lang siya. She's also answerable to the Ombudsman office. And this is the important context of our conversation today. I want to end also on this because I have to transition to other things, my goodness. Let's talk about the Ombudsman issue. Because I think marami sa ating mga kabayan hindi nila na-appreciate. They don't appreciate how serious the Ombudsman issue is. The Ombudsman, if I'm not mistaken, this is a construct of the Swedish Scandinavian social democratic system. Ang trabaho ng Ombudsman is to hold officials accountable and to make sure that their actions, their policies, their behavior is in line doon sa mandato nila. That ang mga politiko, after all, are supposed to be public servants. Hindi natin bossing ang mga yan. Hindi natin mga amo mga yan. They owe us. Alright? They owe us service and they owe us accountability if nagkakaroon na abuses. Alright? That's something very, very important that we have to keep in mind, guys. Alright? That's something very, very important that we have to keep in mind, guys. Kaya, I really suggest you guys check out this very interesting post by Buchanko, a good friend of mine from Philippine Star. We used to be colleagues together back in the day during my ANC days, because as some of you know, I started first at ANC before I transitioned to GMA Network for 5 years, and then for the past 2 years almost andun naman tayo sa One News TV5. So thank you so much for all that opportunity. But as you know, I'm fundamentally a political scientist, a thinker, right? That's what I do more than anything else. All right. Going back to this, guys, the Ombudsman office position is extremely important. All right. And soon we will have a new ombudsman. I want to read lang from this fantastic piece by Buchanko, my good friend. And then a little bit zoom out. Kasi, to be honest, if hindi matino yung ombudsman, wala akong sinasabi sa latest ombudsman, ha? Wala akong sinasabi sa latest ombudsman, ha? But kung hindi matino yung latest ombudsman, ay medyo yari tayo dyan. Alright? Medyo yari tayo dyan. Okay? Something is... at the end of the day, leadership of the Ombudsman office matters. And back in the day, we had former Justice Carpio Morales, who also served as an ombudsman, and that played a very, very important role. Okay? That played a very important role. Oh, road trip. Ito ito. Oh, mag-Google Scholar kayo. Alam ko yung mga vloggers na zero eh. Oh, ganito po. Kung meron kang scientific publication, lalabas ang pangalan nyo. Medyo papuntang 1,000 citation lang naman tayo. Nothing big. Pero parang last time I checked, zero lang citation mo. Wala man lang, di ba? So that's what I mean by social science and Google science, actually. You have to have proper Google Scholar, proper scholarly work, journal article. Anyway, going back to this. No, no, you have to have a decent ombudsman. It's very, very important. Very, very important because that ombudsman will make sure na kung may talagang nangyaring kababalakan, right, sa ilalim ng mga opisyales, meron tayong pananagutan. Meron tayong pananagutan. But if unfortunately, kurakot, tamad, interested, or may utang na loob kasi itong ombudsman na-appoint ni ganito, presidente, dating presidente, tapos itong dating presidente ay kaibigan na ganito. So, wag mo na invest ka. Alam na natin mga kalakaran na gano'n. Hindi ko sinasabi na nangyayari, but yun ang concern. So, it's very important. And gladly, we had people like former Justice and former Ombudsman Carpio Morales who showed the way to us when it comes, guys, when it comes to the issue of making sure we get the things right. Now, wait, kailan yung okay. Okay. I will just go through the opening part. Okay, so opening part, may pagka-artificial intelligence and all of that, imang usapan yan. But ito let me start in the mid part of the column by Buchanko. Everything starts with the ombudsman. But whoever holds that office must be determined to clean up our government. Otherwise, the ombudsman becomes the biggest obstacle to good governance. The term of the current ombudsman is ending next year. Hopefully, the replacement has the reputation and the determination to fight corruption. And to be honest, I agree with Buchanko. Why not appoint Justice Carpio or Senator De Lima as an ombudsman? I really, really agree. Actually, I want to post that. Completely agree. And we had a case, a former justice in the case of Carpio Morales, also serving. And Senator De Lima, former Justice Secretary to serve as an ombudsman. I should have actually shared this. Very important. Very important. Sorry, I'm naman nag-multitasking. So going back to this, ang argument ni Buchanko is that mas napakamahalaga ito, especially because we're under a BBM administration, which, to be honest, is not necessary, let's just, doesn't have the best reputation. It's not, how should I put it? Alam mo na. Okay, anyway, BBM should be thinking legacy as he approaches the midterm of his presidency. Successfully dealing with corruption, Buchanko says, has to be the one thing that will forever assure his place in history, regardless of whatever happened in the past. That means having the courage, well, I cannot say regardless of what happened in the past. I would say exactly because of what happened in the past. Yung kababalakan, corruption, and Marcos dictatorship. That means that having the courage to appoint an ombudsman who is not part or of his party or not one of his friends like Antonio Carpio or Leila de Lima or someone of similar stature, legal stature, moral stature, and political independence, this will be something very, very important. Right? These two people are not likely to have sacred cows to protect, something that unfortunately happened with a number of past appointees na parang may pinoprotektahan daw, sabi ni Buchanko. The Ombudsman should work very closely with the Commission on Audit, COA. Di ba? Kasi COA, release sila ng report. But at the end of the day, Ombudsman dapat bahala dito. Yung mga korte dapat bahala dito. Right? And Ombudsman, of course, is essentially the court that deals specifically, right, with the abuses by public officials. So mahalaga talaga ito, guys. The Ombudsman should work very closely with the COA. These officers should develop an AI system that will bring the anti-corruption drive into the digital age. Actually, speaking of AI, role of AI, check out my interview with my good friend JL si Mr. Tordesillas. He developed actually an AI that helps you to put core reports together and consolidate them. So I'll post also something about that for you guys to check. They should widen the scope of their responsibility to cover not just what happened in the case of the Farmali scandal under the Duterte administration, but also horrible examples of bureaucratic negligence that resulted in massive losses, like the recent COA report of how the Department of Health wasted 11 billion pesos of our taxes on expired medicines and vaccines. So yun lang sinasabi ko, guys. Ang daming kababalakan. There's so much wastage, for instance, and leakage dun sa DOH central office, for instance, right? Wasted were 24,538 bags of donated dialysis solutions worth 37.5 million pesos, which expired last year. They're obviously because of inadequate procurement planning and poor distribution of monitoring systems that result in such a sorry waste. Like, ang daming mga kababalakan na pwede natin pag-usapan, guys. Kaya ito masasabi ko. Yes, it's great. Great that we have, I don't know, AI and things to help us. But at the end of the day, you also need good people in charge of the Ombudsman office to work with the good people inside the COA so that we can catch the bad people and make sure that bad people will not run for office anymore and that we deter future bad people or masamang anak ng mga masamang tao not to run for the office anymore. So let's continue this discussion, guys. Thank you so much again for listening to us and supporting us and through and through. At saka yung mga followers natin, alam ko na talagang buya ka siya. Alam na natin yan, guys. So, yun lang basta healthy competition tayo. I don't even consider other people. I'm here to collaborate and work with everyone like that. So, I appreciate expression of support by our fans and supporters. And I hope na appreciate nyo itong little informal, no production thing na ginagawa natin. Your support makes it worth it. Your support makes us continuously inspired to do what is right. On that note, thank you very much. God bless. And don't forget, check out. One of the things we have to check out is who could be the next ombudsman. Mag-ingay din tayo. Let's put pressure on the government so that we get the right ombudsman para magkaroon tayo ng pananagutan. Malabo impeachment, I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But ayaw ko umasa sa mga politiko. Mahirap talaga umasa sa mga politiko. As we speak, there are already worries about a grand bargain behind the scenes para hindi na naman mangyari ang accountability. Paano naman kasi? Walang malinis na kamay Talk to you soon. God bless. Salamat po. Thank you very much and thank you so much for your support and all. Continue to support us. Deep dive. Talk to you.